Biden pardoned his son and then went on an African safari. After 36 hours, the press finally found him in Angola.
Mr. President, why did you pardon your son?
Mr. President, why did you change your mind and pardon your son?
What's Biden really doing in Africa? We'll have a special report on that later in the show. White House sources tell TMZ that Biden decided on the pardon months ago, but was just lying about not pardoning Hunter to make himself look good before the election. Explains why Hunter was walking around Malibu this summer like he knew something.
Hunter, how are you holding up?
Great, man.
Hunter, are you expecting a pardon? Is that something that you can answer on? All right, sir. Listen, I'm a fan. You fought the good fight.
The Biden family knew Hunter was going to get pardoned the whole time. That was a part of the plan. If he ever got in trouble, Barack, Joe, Kamala, any Democrat president, just get him out of jail. The New York Times claims Biden just changed his mind over Thanksgiving dinner and suddenly told his staff that it was time to end all of this. That's all spin from the Biden camp. They say he was worried Trump would get revenge. Well, why would Trump be in a vengeful mood? Maybe because Biden almost got him shot dead and tried to make him rot in jail. Now Biden Democrats are saying, of course Biden's a liar. He was going to pardon Hunter the whole time.
Do we actually believe that Joe Biden is just going to let the president-elect's administration make good on their promise to go after his son? Joe Biden is leaving the stage. He's leaving the stage. This is not a Donald Trump situation where he could potentially come back and run for president. He is done. He has done everything Joe Biden has played by all the rules that people told him we had to play by, right? He's done it all. So good for Joe Biden and good for Hunter, I say.
Obama Democrats are saying, could have done it a little differently.
I think people will understand his act as a father, but not as a president. And one of the things that confused me, Anderson, was just as a tactical matter, wouldn't it have been better to pardon a whole bunch of people who deserve pardons as part of a pardon gestures to throw this out here alone and hop on a plane to Africa on a Sunday night? It was just handled poorly on top of everything else.
The whole thing was a Joe Biden cleanup job. Democrats knew the pardon was a cleanup job. They're just arguing over timing and tactics. Democrats are like, yeah, of course they were money laundering, but I don't like how he stuck the landing. Biden lied about it, blamed Jill, flew off to Africa, and left his party in the middle of another identity crisis. Deep Democratic fissures spilling into the public view. Biden exposed his family, then his party. Man's got a thing for voyeurism, just like his son. Democrats are complaining behind the scenes that Joe looks egotistical, sinful, and stubborn. He was supposed to be this defender of democracy, Mr. No one's above the law. And now Democrats think Biden sacrificed the party's moral high ground. Listen to Jon Stewart.
Finally, Democrats have a moral perch from which they can judge without shame, hypocrisy, or nuance.
Breaking news, President Biden has issued a pardon for his son, Hunter Biden.
At every turn, Democrats keep getting caught creating a purity test for a system that they can't seem to pass themselves. Rules, loopholes, and norms. The distance between the systems Democrats say they are revering and the one that they're using when they need to is why people think it's rigged. Use the rules, use the loopholes, the norms, but also use it to help the people.
Democrats never had the moral high ground. They just talked about having the moral high ground. While they were spying, lying, censuring, raiding, arresting, bribing, you name it, they did it. But Stewart's right about this. They weren't getting dirty to help the people. They were doing it to help themselves. Some Democrats are tired of all the pearl clutching. Quote, what's the point of holding the moral high ground? It's time to stop playing nice. Democrats think they've been playing nice this whole time while they arrest us, bribe kids, and spy on parents? Now, a faction of the party wants a pardon palooza. Democrats are lobbying Biden to hand out blanket pardons for Jack Smith, Robert Mueller, Merrick Garland, Fani Willis, Letitia James, even Dr. Fauci. Why would Dr. Fauci need a pardon? Or any of these people? if they've done nothing wrong. Well, they've done a lot wrong. You know it. They know it. And they're trying everything they can to get away with it. You don't get to abuse power and beg for blanket pardons. Pardons are for people who deserve leniency, who have served some time, maybe deserve a second chance, or are related to the president. Other Democrats are like, you know, there's a lot of other people not named Hunter Biden with tax and gun charges. They could use some help, too.
He's used the power of the pardon more sparingly for people who are not his son than you would expect from a Democratic president. If you're going to do it, don't just do it for your son. There are a lot of American sons and daughters who could use the same kind of relief.
Don't stop at Hunter Biden.
Thank you.
Pardon the 40 people who are on death row right now to get them off of death row, number one. Number two, pardon the 3,000 people who are in federal jail for trumped-up marijuana charges. Pardon them as well so they can get back to their communities and contribute to their economies. That's what the president should do.
How Democrats went from Biden's not going to pardon his son because no one's above the law to free serial killers, I don't know. But there are reasons society has consequences. Consequences keep people from hurting other people and from hurting themselves. Listen here to our colleague Charles Payne.
My brother's getting out of jail on Friday. My brother was among the first 100 crack addicts in America. I'm telling you, at least the first 100, 200. In the hood, when he came upstairs and told us about crack, how great it was, I had never heard of it before. I kind of don't want him to come out of jail. Because before he went in, he stopped by my aunt's house, and he didn't, he lives away from here, and he didn't have shoes on in the middle of winter. I keep his commissary. I give him $100 a week in commissary. He's like a kingpin in there because no one gets a nickel. I mean, that's how bad it is in there. And I know he's safe. I know he's captured. But what's happening with the Biden, and this is the ultimate sign of elitism, of just sort of entitlement, gone amok, that Democrats have railed against for so long. It's a slap in the face to everyone that, that Joe Biden gets to do this. Yeah. It really is.
Hunter's liberal privilege kept him out of trouble his whole life. And he never learned from his mistakes because Daddy was always there to save him. And while Daddy was saving his son, who was buying crack, millions of poor Americans, many without daddies, never got saved. They got put in prison for decades because Joe Biden was tough on crime. Those Americans had a lot less crack than Hunter was holding. That's what's making Democrats sick to their stomach tonight. Biden was never this rule of law guy. Look around. If he didn't like a law, he'd break it. He's been smacked down by the courts more than anyone. His family doesn't pay taxes, but you do. And he takes your tax money and spends it on migrants and then calls you a bigot for saying that's not fair. See what he's doing here? He's claiming the moral high ground when he's really trying to import voters. Biden says the laptop was fake and then pardoned his son for everything we found on it. Everyone's waking up to the fact that this whole presidency was a lie.
You were intending to do this all along, which again is no problem. But it doesn't make you any less full of it. You do understand that the Democrats are no longer in a position to say anything, right? You can talk till the cows come home. You're whistling into the wind. Nobody wants to hear what you have to say right now. I'm not talking about you. I'm talking about your party. Because when you pardon your son, going back on your word, telling the American people there was no way that you were going to pardon him when everybody and their grandmama knew you were lying but didn't hold you accountable for it. And now you've confirmed what people believe, that you were probably going to be lying about that very thing that you said you wouldn't do for your son.
Are any Democrats willing to raise their hands and say, I'm a proud Biden Democrat? Does anybody want to be associated with Joe Biden at this point? If you are, it's an open invitation to come on this show. Come on the show and tell me you're a Biden Democrat. Why you're proud. Give me one example. I don't even think Biden's getting a library. No donor is going to give this 82-year-old failed president money for a library. What are they going to get out of it? Biden's going to have to store all his papers in his garage next to his Corvette. Hunter can stand in the driveway and collect entrance fees. Vox says for Democrats, the Hunter Biden pardon is a problem and an opportunity. It's now their chance to break from the big guy. It's already happening. Joe just lost Chuck Todd.
You read the Hallie Biden transcript, and that's Bo's widow.
Yes.
And essentially he turned her into a crack addict. And this was all happening in 2017, 2018. And Joe and Joe Biden were so concerned about their family that they decided to run for president.
Yep.
So when you talk about the word selfish, it's almost like the word doesn't, their decision to run for president put the entire Democratic Party and the United States of America in the position that it's in now.
Really, Chuck? Really? Chuck Todd's disgusted now when he doesn't have a show anymore? Everyone knew this 4 years ago because it was in the laptop he was saying was Russian. Lying about pardoning Hunter was the last straw for Chuck Todd. Chuck Todd didn't say diddly when Biden made the American people broke. He only had enough when Biden made a liar out of him. So where does the Democratic Party go now? Clinton's been Me Too'd. Barack's in hiding. Biden's Jimmy Carter. So what's next? Well, there's a struggle for the soul of the Democratic Party, and no one knows what to do. Writer Francis Buckley is asking how Democrats can pull the plug from the corrupt ruling class and reconnect with real Americans. He says this: the party would have to abandon the conceit that their opponents are either bigots or stupid. And they'd have to do so without adopting the socialist agenda of a Senator Sanders. They'd have to wean themselves from the serotonin rush that comes from thinking that they're the anointed ones, rejected by the voters. They'd have to give up on the idea that they alone defend democracy. They'd have to say goodbye to the haters in the party. Click here to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page to catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You won't get it anywhere else.